See, live, it's already saying it's live.
But why haven't I got the notification? That's funny. Okay, shall I ask ChatGPT quickly?
Yeah, please.
I have started live stream on VBS, yeah?
OBS.
OBS. I have OBS.
And YouTube Studio.
OBS, but not live on YouTube. This is what it says. Your channel
That's
is
done.
Then it says in OBS that service to YouTube RTMPS and use the correct stream key. Connect the account. Make sure the stream is set to public in YouTube Studio. They're set to public.
How do you set that to public?
Wow, I have to find it out someday. Maybe some very new.
Stream settings.
Yeah, set to public.
Unlisted.
Oh, privacy. Edit.
Title description.
No, that is
It's
the
13, no, today?
yeah 30 yeah. Live reply anyone yeah you did anyone. Live commentary approved users no.
It's fine. It's comments only. To ask where do we need to put the settings? Public?
Here was no user again anyone participants.
No, participation mode. This
Okay.
is. You can
how
send
to-
messages.
How to make it public. Give step by step guidance. Okay. Open YouTube Studio in your browser. Click a create or go live. Is there anything create or go live? Oh, public. Unlisted. Public. Done. Save.
Check now.
Hey, okay.
Hey, how are you?
Nice
Check
to
now,
meet
check
you.
now,
It's
check now,
Klaus.
check now. Sorry, we're checking the live stream.
I know.
Let me go back to the scene.
It's still pointing
Yeah,
towards
we
us.
got it. Amazing. Yeah, lovely.
Okay.
If you put this way, it would be better.
There?
Yeah, we'll put it. We'll take a look at this.
Do you want me to watch this one or?
Yeah, this is better. And slightly, yeah.
I mean, who is on the slides? I don't know. Yeah, so I think this is live.
This is
So once this is live, what we need to do is we need to switch on the audio, and we have to start recording.
Yeah, but is there a mic that you're going to get the speakers?
yeah.
Is there a mic for the speakers?
This one, no, I don't have it.
Okay.
Disconnected, I guess.
No, he's going to pick up the speakers, isn't he?
That should actually. We'll have to test it. Do you want to test it?
No, not yet.
still waiting on a few people, but we're just going to do a quick intro and then you guys can enjoy your evening, get to some networking, some pizza and whatnot. So I know we've got quite a few familiar faces here. It's quite, sorry, interrupting your convo. Quite a few people who've been to BrainStation before, right? Most people around here. So that's great. Some good returning customers. But I'm just going to run through this. Pardon if you have heard this spiel before. So I'm Sally. I'm our Senior Learning Advisor here at BrainStation. I think it's just helpful for you to know who we are, why it's that. A few quick housekeeping things. The Wi-Fi is just on the wall over here. If you need that, the service in here isn't great, so I definitely recommend joining that. Toilets are just through here. Pizza and drinks. Help yourself. And then Kabir will be here all night. He's just on front desk. So if you need anything, just give him a shout. So yeah, my name's Sally. I'm one of our Senior Learning Advisors. So this is just a little brief synopsis as to what we do here at BrainStation. So we started in 2012 in Toronto. Since then, we've moved to London. And really what we do is we look to enable professionals to just empower themselves in the digital age, make sure that they've got everything they need to be successful in that sense. And that has changed quite drastically over the last year. I'm sure you're all fully aware. So our philosophy and why people really come to BrainStation is really for our curriculum, our instructors, and our experience. So you're sat in our campus right now, which is a lovely space we're very fortunate to have here in Shoreditch. And then just a few pics of our events, some pictures of what we have going on. Just a few partners that we work with there. Okay, and then just a few things we've got coming up. So we have a whole host of events. If you're here tonight, you probably like local events. Next week we've got a design evening with Monzo on Thursday with their creative director. Her name's Coral. I just think that's hilarious for Monzo, right? And then on Wednesday we have a what's it on Wednesday? Completely lost my train of thought. It's on the website. But we have great events every week, always something that you can come down to. So if you do want to, feel free, pop me a message on LinkedIn. My name's Sally Wood, fairly easy. Always happy to help on that front. Oh, AI evening. And it's with Rightmove, so we've got their data scientists, which I know people tend to like move away from social media and just move to Rightmove. So that's quite interesting to see how they're getting on with that. And then just a few of our workshops that we've got. So a lot of the things that we used to do were more, I suppose, generic AI for kind of everybody, and now we're getting really specific as the whole economy are getting more used to these skills with AI and getting equipped with what they need. So we do, for example, AI product managers. But then we've also just launched a AI files workshop, we have AI agents, AI search. So these are like day long, so you can kind of do it straight away, go into work straight away the next day. And these are really helpful, so like the AI files basically is just you build an agent through that process. So it's kind of like we see tonight, that one might be helpful. So if you do have any questions, anything we can help with, feel free to get in touch, but that's all for me. I think, are we going to be networking a little bit yet as well? Yeah? We're going to network for a little bit before you kick off, so feel free, grab some more pizza, drinks, help yourself, have fun, the sun's shining, so we can't complain, but enjoy, I'll leave you to it.
our 30th events. Our 30th events this year. So our talks will be starting soon. Before that, I will have just few announcements. By the way, if anyone needs our Wi-Fi is brain station and password is @3r. So before starting, I would like to thank our sponsor, David, for supporting our events in Memphis. And David is hiring right now. If you are interested, please check the openings and maybe you can find a role that would suit you. Today, our organizers are Devo Hadeyeri, Alper Naysa, and Yaslan Naranemi. Before starting, I would like to mention our code of conduct, which is the code of conduct of Moonfocus, the organization behind PyData. Basically, we could summarize it as be kind to others. All communications should be appropriate. We don't tolerate harassment, and in general, being kind to others. By the way, if you want to speak at an event like that, please contact us. And we always want to host speakers and provide our visitors good content, I would say. And also, if you would like to volunteer at similar events like that, we would really appreciate your help. Before starting, I would also make a community announcement. In September 22nd, there will be an event called Civil Navigate. And we will be providing discount codes for the event for whom would like to join. And today, we will have 3 speakers. Our first speaker is Annie Chan. She will talk about Second will be Peter Houghton. And more. And for the lightning talk, our third speaker will be Anand Rawat. He will be speaking about autonomous data ops for AI systems. So I would like to welcome Amy Chan for this meeting.
Thank you so much. I'm going to quickly switch my slides. Give me one moment. Okay. Awesome. So, hi everyone. Welcome to Building Real-Time AI Voice Agents. I'm super excited to be here. So, my name is Annie, and I am a developer evangelist at Twilio. I'm an AI nerd, productivity hacker, and major foodie. In case you can't tell with the huge croissant on the screen. That image is not AI generated, by the way. This croissant does actually exist in London. If you want to find out where to get a croissant that big, come talk to me after the presentation. And with all that talk about food, you're probably wondering what's on the agenda today. But instead of just showing you the agenda on the slideshow, I'm actually going to ask my voice AI agent. So I'm going to try and do this with one hand. I'm going to switch my screen to my script. Hopefully this works. Hear that. And then I'm going to connect my phone so I can mirror it. Content. So I'm going to make a phone call to
your demo assistant. How can I help you today?
Hey, what's on the agenda today? Actually, can you send that to me as a text instead? So I've just interrupted my agent over here. And then in a moment, hopefully we'll make a function call.
The agenda to your phone.
Cool, so I'm gonna end the call there. I'm gonna switch to my messages. And hopefully the SMS comes through, but the network here is pretty bad, so I don't know if the phone's gonna get it. I have one bar on my phone. Oh, there we go. Yay! So, I don't know why it's not showing on my screen. Let's try that one more time. So I have to use QuickTime to project my phone. I'm trying to hold the microphone and my phone at the same time. So, okay, that took a while. But basically, for today's agenda, I've got a full course meal for you. There's a food theme going on, so please indulge me for the next 25 minutes on this. For our appetizer, we're going to talk about why people are building voice AI agents. For our main course, we're going to talk about how to build a conversation relay, which is a Twilio product. For our side dish, we're going to talk about the resources, how you can get started, what's coming up next. And for our dessert, we're going to do a fun activity, hopefully if there's enough time, to say your feedback. So, we're going to jump back into our presentation next. So, quick question here. Who here prefers speaking over texting? Anybody using ChatGPT in voice mode maybe? Well, I personally really enjoy using voice mode over typing a lot of text because I can get more context in a short amount of time. So, let's talk about voice as a user interface. When humans were born, the first thing we learned to do was actually to speak before we could write, because the way we can process information is much quicker through speaking and listening over reading and writing. So these numbers are just rough. They come from a blog post by Julian. There's a link in the bottom right. I know it's kind of small, but if you want, I can share the slides with you if you're interested. And what this also means is that data exchange is much quicker, and if we're using a voice interface, it just comes more naturally to us. The data is more enriched in that context, and it's just more fun. So let's talk about building your own voice interface. When it comes to building your own voice interface, one of the ways in which you can build it could look like this. So you're stitching together several components. The first one being your speech-to-text, text-to-speech models. You've got to think about your business and application logic. There's also the how that is going to interact with your large language models. And then when your voice agent is talking, if you're interrupting it or if you're detecting for end-of-turn detection, those are things that you want to take into consideration. And then, of course, orchestrating all these different pieces together. I know there are also speech-to-speech models, but there are pros and cons depending on the use case and how you want to use it. So quickly, you'll realize that there's a lot of problems that come from having to stitch all these different components together. The first one being latency. So when you're working with all these different models, the response time, if you're adding function calling, that's going to make the response time slower and slower. And when you're in a voice interface, you want that conversation to flow naturally. You want that to be more in real time and have that good experience. Then there's also the issue with timing. So earlier in the demo that I just did, I was able to interrupt the agent. And that is quite important in that conversation flow because you don't want to just be talking over the agent and then you kind of like lose your train of thought as you're conversing with that agent. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, orchestrating all of this together is quite challenging, and having to maintain it yourself is quite challenging, as I mentioned. So at Twilio, we came up with Conversation Relay, and Conversation Relay helps you focus on mostly your business or application logic. So putting more value into that and taking that infrastructure of the orchestrating between the speech-to-text and text-to-speech off of you. So you bring your own AI, you bring your own large language model, and then we handle the real-time text-to-speech, speech-to-text orchestration. We also handle interruption handling, as you saw in the demo, out of the box, and that just makes things much easier for you, so you don't have to worry so much about, how are you going to build that voice layer. And then we also partner with these lovely text-to-speech and speech-to-text providers. We partner with Google, Amazon, Elevate Labs, and Deepgram to get you that good latency. There are over 50 different languages, and
over 5,000 different voices you can play around with. So when it comes to customizing the voice of your agent, which is really important if you want to build something that's like more human-like, more natural, those are really great to play around with. So let's talk a little bit about the architecture of this. So it all starts with a phone number. So on the left-hand side, a phone number will come in, and then we have a WebSocket connection that streams the, so Conversation Relay will turn that phone call from speech into text, and that text gets streamed over WebSocket into your application. And then however you want to handle that, that text, however you want to process it in your own application, you can decide. So you can connect it to your large language model, you can hook it up to a knowledge base, you can do some function calling, tool calling if you want. And then what you'll do is you'll stream that text token back into Conversation Relay, and that automatically gets turned back into speech. So the whole idea of this is relaying text back and forth, hence the name Conversation Relay. So that's just to give you an idea of like what's happening and what we're going to be building later. And just to give you an idea of like what can be built, I'm not sure if anyone's seen Web Dev Challenge on YouTube, but there's an episode on code-powered phone hotline where teams got together in teams of 4, and they did like a 4-hour hackathon, and they were able to use Conversation Relay to build up that phone hotline like pretty quickly. And they built really cool things, like for example, there was like a Pokemon, if anyone's a Pokemon fan here, a Pokemon index lookup where you can ask things about your Pokemon. There was one about, I think, Google Maps, like a restaurant finder, and things like that. On the other side, I've got Rashad, my colleague, who built something using Gemini with Conversation Relay. So Conversation Relay is LLM agnostic. You can use any large language model provider. In our demo today, we're going to be using OpenAI, but of course you can use Anthropic, Gemini, any large language model provider there is. We're not going to watch the video now. We don't have time for that. But enough talk. Let's jump into the actual building now. So for today's ingredients, continuing our food theme here, there are 3 ingredients for today. The first is having a Twilio account. So a Twilio account is where you're going to manage your phone numbers. Then we need a large language model API key and ngrok to expose a local server to the local network. A local server to the network so that Twilio can find it. And what we'll build together today is an Alcafe booking system, continuing the food theme. So the first thing we'll do is find a phone number together. So I am now going to switch to my Twilio dashboard. So this is a Twilio dashboard. How many people here have used Twilio before? Okay, a few, so cool. So this will be very familiar. This is for those of you who haven't used Twilio before. So on the left-hand side, we've got phone numbers. You can go ahead and buy a new phone number. And then for the country code, we're going to search for a UK phone number by saying +44, and we're going to make sure that the voice capability is enabled. And then we're also going to search for specifically a mobile number. Once we're there, we've got like basically a list of phone numbers we can choose from. I usually like choosing a phone number with repeating numbers, maybe this one, and then you just make sure that the icon for the voice is present in the voice column. And then you can just buy that phone number. So I'm going to hit next. You're going to choose between this business or individual. So in our case, Alcafe is a business, so I'm going to choose a business number. And then we're going to assign it a regulatory bundle. So this is for compliance reasons. If you do not have one, you can just go ahead and create a new regulatory bundle. And then it's basically just a form that you're going to fill out. And every country is different. It depends. For the UK, I think you just submit an address and you'll be fine. And then it will go through an approval process that varies depending on country to country. So once that is ready, then you can buy that phone number. I'm going to skip buying the phone number because I already have one. And I'm just going to go to the active phone numbers I have in my dashboard. So once you buy that phone number, the phone will appear in this view. And then if you click into one of them, you can start configuring it. So there are 2 things we can configure for a phone number. The first one is a messaging configuration, and the other one is a voice configuration. We're going to skip the messaging for this demo, but we're just going to focus on the voice configuration. And how we're going to configure this phone number is through a webhook. So I've got my ngrok domain over here, and I'm giving it the endpoint TWIML. So TWIML stands for Twilio Markup Language, And if we go to the docs quickly, make that a little bigger. There are different Twiml verbs that we can use when we're basically building out how you want the Twilio to handle the phone call. So you can do things like read out a string, you can play some audio, you can gather the caller, whatever they type on the phone keypad. You can also hang out, leave, pause, redirect the phone, or do whatever programmatically you want to do with it. So if I now head over into my IDE, go to main, great, okay. So what we've done already is we've set up our Twilio account. We've bought a phone number, we've configured, we've created regulatory bundle and configured the phone number. The next thing we want to do is start implementing Conversation Relay. Just a quick check. How many people know what Conversation Relay is already? Cool, like 1 for 2 people. Okay, so that's good. So this will be a very good way to get introduced to Conversation Relay. So on the right-hand side, I have a Python script, and make that bigger. I'm using Python, but you can use any programming language you want. And we're importing 3 libraries here. The first one is Fast API to build a web server. The next one is Twilio's programmable voice. So this is how we're going to import Conversation Relay into our application. And then OpenAI's library to handle the large language model side of things. And we've just got some configurations up here, and we're going to keep a sessions object to store our conversation in. So I mentioned earlier we've got our now. So we've got our terminal endpoint over here. And then what we want to start doing is we're going to create a new voice response. Then we're going to connect to it. And thank you, Copilot, but the next one is wrong. So I've got to say conversation. Typing with one hand is hard. Relay. And then we're going to start setting the different parameters in here. Cool. So the first parameter that we can set in Conversation Relay is the language. So it's also on the left-hand side over here, and I've got it in a environment variable. So you can set it to things like English US, English Great Britain, French, whatever language that you want Conversation Relay to work in. The next one, the next parameter that we're going to set is the WebSocket URL. So that WebSocket URL is actually going to be down here. So we're going to accept a WebSocket connection. We're going to process different message types. So there's one for setup, one for prompting, and one for interruption. And the one that actually we're going to double click into is the one for the prompt over here, because I have an LLM handler. And this LLM handler is basically going to use the OpenAI Responses API. So whenever the conversation streams those texts into our application, we'll call this LLM to process it. So in this case, we're also using the GPT-5 Mini for our application. So we've got the conversation in. We've also got the tool calling enabled over here. So for our tool calling in the demo, what I also have is our SMS handler. So the SMS handler is also going to be using the Twilio library to be able to send the text message, as I showed in the demo earlier. Now, heading back into talking about Conversation Relay back here. So that is our WebSocket URL configured. Then we're going to talk about the transcription provider. So we're going to set the transcription provider. And then we can basically choose any transcription provider that you want to use. It could be Amazon, Google. We're going to be using DeepGram. And then we're also going to specify this, the specific model from DeepGram that we want to be using for the speech-to-text. And we're going to choose Nova 2 General, because that's a good model in this case. General. Typing with one hand is much harder than I expected it to be. And then we're also going to configure the text-to-speech model next. So we've got different text-to-speech model providers. There's Amazon, there's Google, but we're going to choose 11 Labs because they have really cool voices. And then for selecting which voice we want to use from 11 Labs, we can head back to the Twilio docs. And basically in the docs, there's a section about picking different voices for your application. So we've got Google, we've got Amazon Poly Voices. If you scroll down on the side, I find this very useful. We've got the 11 Lab voices and what you can do as well is play the different sounds. So let's try one.
I think this is a really nice way to just talk naturally together, you know?
A laugh can chase away the shadows of a long day.
I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high or veil,
You know, I was thinking, would you like to go?
Cool, so this is a really nice way we can quickly find a voice that we like. And what I'm going to do is, I like Mark's natural voice, and I'm going to copy that voice ID and paste it back into my application. So we can set it like that. And then the final thing we're going to configure in Conversation Relay is the welcome greeting. Greeting. Cool. I'm gonna say, so this is what Conversation will say when you first make that phone call. I'm Sheena from El Cafe. How can I help with your reservation today? Cool, that is good enough for me. Cool, so that is everything you need to configure for a Conversation Relay. And there is a, am I missing something? Sorry, just double checking because there's a, can anybody see what I'm missing in my, oh no, we're all good. Okay, that was just Copilot glitching out. Cool, so that's everything you needed to basically import Conversation Relay and configure all the parameters. And that's it, that's all we need to do. So next, we've customized the voice, we've chosen a voice from 11 Labs. And the other thing we also need to do is the prompting for the agent. So when it comes to prompting, so I've got my file over here. We want to set like a personality and who the agent is going to be. So in our case, we're going to specify like the company background. So in this case, the company name is going to be El Cafe. Industry is restaurant and hospitality. The use case is reservation management. And then we're also going to set the persona and tone. So I've set like, you know, the persona to be warm and welcoming, you know, helpful, some tone guidelines, traits, communication style. We can also set things like the example interactions we want this agent to have. I skipped that one and I went straight into instructions. So this covers the use case I want this agent to be handling, including things like reservation handling, you know, inquiries, the communication style, and then also for the edge cases when information is not available, and also for closing the call. The next part is more interesting because now we're talking about function calling. So my agent is able to send text messages using the send SMS function, using the SMS handler I showed you earlier. And then below, I'm also giving it the example usage, so whenever this occurs, the agent knows what to do with that. And finally, the most important thing in my prompt is the text normalization for voice. And this is very important because when you're having that conversation with your AI agent, you want to make sure that you're reading things like numbers, dates, emails, special characters in a more natural way. So for example, when it comes to pricing, you don't want your agent to say $20, you want it to say $20. So having this in the prompt will really help with to help make the conversation sound more natural. So now we have everything, we've implemented Conversation Relay. We're going to call our agent one more time and hopefully it works. So I am going to kill that. Main. And we're going to give our agent another call. So let's try.
Hi, I'm Stevie from El Cafe. How can I help you with your reservation today?
Hey, what's on the menu today?
We offer a seasonal contemporary American menu. Think shareable small
Can you send me the text? Send me a text of the menu. So whenever the tool calling happens, it does take a little bit more time. And then hopefully we got that text message. Sorry, I forgot to have QuickTime on the side. Okay. Cool. So that was all Conversation Relay set up, and you saw how easy, or hopefully how easy that was to do. And then the final thing I want to talk about is something called SSML tags. So SSML tag stands for Speech Synthesis Markup Language. If I quickly switch to the doc to talk about what that is. Basically, it is these tags that you can add to the to help your agents like specifically do these kinds of things. So for example, you can emphasize words, you can add the correct pronunciation of words. So this is very important if you want to pronounce a person's name right or a company name right. You can also control things like the volume, the speaking rate, the pitch of how things sound, and this can all help create a more natural sounding agent. So this is very useful. And one of the things that I did at the beginning of this demo is actually, I'm not sure if you noticed, if anyone's Irish or not Irish. The reason why I say that is because the name Sheena, this name over here, is actually pronounced wrong by 11 Labs. And the correct pronunciation, so 11 Labs says Cine, but the correct pronunciation is actually Sheena. And the way we can fix that is by adding the phoneme tag over here. So if we add this to the string in the conversation relay welcome greeting, then it will pronounce, the agent is going to be able to pronounce the name correctly. So I'm not actually going to show that, but just trust me, it works. And then that is everything for our demo. So I'm going to switch back to my slides next. Cool. So we were able to implement conversation relay hopefully quite easily. Otherwise, you guys should check out the YouTube. It's very, very helpful. We bought a Twilio phone number, we implemented conversation relay, and we also helped make our agents sound more human by using 11 Lab voices, but also configuring the prompt and playing around with SSML tags. So that was pretty cool. So we talked about fine-tuning with SSML tags over here. And so what's next? So I've got some resources here. If you want to get started with building conversation relay, I'll leave this for a minute so you can take a photo. We've got links to the docs, best practices. There's also webinars inside one of these links, which has a demo of conversation relay, but also something else called conversation intelligence, which I'll talk about in our dessert section. So I'll give everyone a moment to take a photo. And then, amazing. Cool, everyone got it? Nice. And I'm going to talk about Twilio's event. So I'm not sure if anyone's going to San Francisco anytime soon, but if you do plan to, our flagship event is happening on May 6th to 7th. If you're interested, you can come talk to me. I have a special registration link for you if you are planning to go to San Francisco. But if you're not, don't worry, we have a bunch of other events happening across the entire world, basically. Anybody want to take a photo? Otherwise, I'm going to move on. Cool. The second thing I want to share is we have a Twilio Discord. So if you're building anything cool, or if you have any questions when you're building with Twilio, do come join our Discord. We've got a very friendly community. They do like regular Tuesday coding sessions, I suppose, that you can get into if that's what you're interested in. So do join our Discord community. And then finally for our dessert, we almost made it. I thought it'd be pretty fun to have an interactive demo that everyone can join in. So what we're gonna do next is I am going to switch my screen to my script again, and then I'm gonna kill this script, kill the script, UV on this one, just make sure everything's there, and great. So what I have for you next is a fun little activity where everybody can call into this number, and you get to talk to an AI agent on the other side. It's going to ask you one question. You just have a quick conversation, and then you can end the call. And has anyone seen Inside Out? Everyone knows the movie from Pixar, yeah? So what I have on the left-hand side is like a jar of like different sentiment, different emotions of like how the Twilio's conversation intelligence is going to analyze your conversation, and then it's going to drop a drop-in sentiment bowl into this glass jar. So have fun. It's not going to be used for anything. I'm not going to send you any marketing things after this, I promise. So yeah. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to try it out, and I'll also do the same. LinkedIn network is not that great in here. Okay, we got something. Yay! Okay, that is the highlight of my presentation. Yeah, so going back to my slide. Thank you, everyone. Pass it back to.
You didn't announce the piece.
What?
The t-shirts?
Oh yes, yes. Oh, I bought some swag from Twilio, so please help yourselves to some T-shirts and stickers on the table over there. Just grab some. I don't want to take them home. Thank you. All right, thank you. I'll hand it back to the organizer.
Marvel.
We will just have a 15 minutes break, and after that, we will have our second speaker, Peter Bauer. So, see you at half past 6.
How you doing? Excuse me.
Do you know what the Wi-Fi is? 1, 2, 3 learn.
1, 2, 3.
Or smoking.
Yeah.
This is my friend. I know from Maharashtra. There's another John that I keep telling about why.
This is your friend. One you keep on wanting to leave work.
Maybe I could have a lagged.
Yeah, because the network. You can also take a photo yourself. Oh no, that's why. Okay. Take a photo. That's my phone. You need to update that.
Could you share me on LinkedIn if that's okay? I just sent you a link.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. This is much better.
Yeah, I mean it's the best.
Yeah, the code is not visible from.
No, it is a kind of reflection of the light, so I'm not sure will that work.
No, it was also about zooming in.
Yeah.
The code was not visible at all.
It started out.
That's okay. No.
No, but you can one thing you can put your PPT or something online or
I can share my slides.
slides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, I'll share my slides and then we'll just link it up there.
It's on LinkedIn. I just sent you. Sorry.
Yes.
On LinkedIn. Let's make it.
Yeah, of course, I can share the code. I just need to make a post, maybe. Yeah.
send you now. I'll get you later.
Yeah, and then I can.
If you want to give the proposal to yourself,
Give me feedback and sometimes it's like, you wait for a lot of
Thank
He's
you.
gonna yell at me. Because like, I was meant to be.
Not at the moment, but hopefully in the future. There's a reason why we don't have speech to phone is you could technically still use it in your own application, but conversation really
I'm just building the service system for my needs, and then I'm gonna just keep it very smooth.
in the future.
And I am like taking screenshots of like fitness apps.
Yeah, I'm sure because actually I use heavily. I use Quilio heavily.
Oh, okay. Are you building something specific or?
And it'll adjust my fitness regime based on my policy.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Easier today. Also, you need to have more water today. So it's hydrating. So again, that's amazing adaptability. That like if you use your requirement at the moment, I would have nailed this for me.
Yeah.
And like maybe there's something to say. At the moment, we just haven't got a little bit like maximising my entire dietary and fitness regime, and it's just like just being so considerate.
Oh yeah.
I am now. I am now.
Summer's coming. You know, we all want that summer body.
The whole thing, I called the whole project like project courses because yeah, I've got family holidays
That
like 6
makes so
grand
much
to school
sense.
fee, and it's like so it's like a nice like
So that's what
into the data. I'll let the AI tell me how to handle it. Like it'll fact when like okay, you spent like 2 hours like today free diving, fine, like you're on holiday. Teach AI there's a whole like thing, but there's something very interesting about it that I think like there's no integration system. It could be a competition or whatever. Like,
Yeah, a lot of
the fact is the workload that was initiated for a few of them
the design a system routed in the US for that to come here and then so
and then it's designed academic literature.
yeah, it's terrible, exactly. But like it's in Asia, yeah, because my colleague, she's based in Australia, and whenever she's doing stuff, she's like, I can't use this product because I can't
So
do
one of the
demos
things I was
because
going
the
to do
latency is
this
so
weekend
bad.
was actually
So she's focused on WhatsApp instead.
I'm going to have my retail retro.
WhatsApp
It was too talky the other day.
So
Maybe my retro, I should have an experimental week before I get it to do some researchers like persuasion techniques, so that it
because I didn't
responds to FBI negotiating style.
really look into what WhatsApp is. I suppose, because you know how you can make Wi-Fi calling over
It's an
network
AI
calling?
theoretically
I wonder
is so much better at
True,
getting me
that's
to do
true.
things
I don't know.
than just if I don't cross the zone.
Because I didn't look into WhatsApp.
That's almost just like
I put all my bets into conversation relay and the conversation intelligence, which is what I did not cover in my presentation. Yeah, we have way too many products to learn, so I can't share everything, but I think the most interesting one is definitely the Voice AI. The Voice AI one I think is a big one, and just any data related product is quite interesting. So we have something called Segment, which is a CDP, customer data platform. So if you want to do like some ETL, like ingest from a source and send it to a destination, and then in the middle do like data enrichment or analysis, Twilio has a product for that. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I tried. I was like, one hand typing code was not in my plan, so I was like, okay, it would be fine if I was just coding and like holding, but then I also needed to use my phone. It was like 3 things, and that was too much. So next time I will use a different phone. Yeah, for future. It's good practice, so. Second time, but I would say I changed. Usually the first time I did it, the first episode, the intern was university where I did the
What about that we attended. And they have a lot of expertise going into it with being able to differentiate between sort of stress levels and physiological stress. So you can be stressed in terms of what your biomarkers because your heart rate is pumping, something like maybe you went for a rupture, like you can be temporarily physiological stress. Then what's the baseline? Chronic stress. And that's what they were going to do, being able to say, here's your stress, but then if you take away all the activities, what lies underneath it? And so their clients would find out from the military, especially Australian military.
Perfect. User personas, yeah.
I think, I don't know, like, this is what they happen to it. They employed like Emily and like Steve. I think it is still going. Like this, really like how do you connect? I feel like we won't get sidetracked by like CEOs not knowing how to CEO, like I'm well aware of that. But it was a really interesting. This was 11 years ago, and like the first job to be done was how do you, if you've got like Microsoft band, how do you separate out when you can listen to that signal versus when you don't listen to the signal. So that was like the job that I did for them, and then they hired someone was just comparing that versus the chest strap. And both the phones handlers were wearing the chest strap and a band like 24 hours a day. And so you can see basically this is reliable, this is not, whenever someone's on the rest. So you just got to use all the experts who put velocity data to be like, okay, when they're resting, cool, filter everything out, just that, and then you can take these samples of the heart rate, and then it's actually kind of the breathing rate of each other from that. And then using that as one of the physiological inputs to their whole system that they'd actually done in a much more to try and measure basically this is the chronic stress level of the soldier, and then they get deployed and they come back and it's and then how do you watch that going back down again with all the interventions that makes it go down. And if you just say to a soldier you need to do some yoga, they'll move. Whereas if you like, especially with a male dancer, say to a soldier, do some yoga, we can measure your like chronic stress level. It's now like it was at 46 and now it's like 79. And now like if you do yoga in the way and breathing techniques and so on, trust us, like after a few weeks, typically this is your trajectory and you can see it going down. So that was the whole picture. I'm like, I can see that working. Whereas if they don't see the imperceptible change in chronic stress levels, I feel like this is huge. Yeah. Cool business, fully executed commercially. Being an health sector, yeah, let's get to the rest of it. It's a good one. It's a good one.
I forgot the name of the
At the moment, I'm just doing it for myself. It's almost like how some of the best products are. I want the right system that works for me. I'm going to keep on tinkering with it until it works really well for me. So we've got a 6-week old dev cycle, development on Sundays mostly, and then we just try it for a week. So it's like literally a very like, it's a weekly sprint, but the development only happens for a few hours on Sunday.
It's fine, right? As long as we're productive and we bill our hours on time.
It's basically coming up. I don't really care about what it's testing it, but like, hey, if I get something that works for me, then it's going to be worth something.
Yeah.
But then we'll basically, I don't think maybe we'll get from my standard system for other people. I know, I'm going to go put it on channel list. Get you, like, zero, like, I don't know if you know, like, it's a test piece scale, but like 0 to 1 is like methodology and framework. So like, I just need to get from 0 to 1, and then getting from 1 to 2, getting away from 1 other person, and then you're like 80% of the way to success already. That's true. And then the next rollout would be like, hey, we'll do like a monthly challenge where to see if anybody wants to like optimize their fitness and nutrition using those. And then if it works for everyone else, it's like, hey, let's make some money as well.
Time to make some money. Yes.
Yeah.
Now I will be presenting our second speaker, Peter Houghton. He will be talking about token sport.
Just give me a minute. Yes. Hi, I'm Pete Howell. That's my company. You can see it very small right here, Investigating Software. I'm a sort of self-employed consultant and I help people and companies and banks, organisations organise how they do testing using modern tools. So quality assurance, but not the traditional sort of outsourced sort of quality assurance you've probably seen before, how to use modern technology where it's available to help you. Okay, and I'm going to talk about how you can use AI coding tools, and therefore tokens, to help you improve the quality of your systems, and a little bit more. Okay, so my sort of conjecture that we're going to use is test automation as a solved problem. That will upset some people, but we'll go with it for now. But investigating your software isn't. Okay, quality is many things, and you can't just use a playwright script to check quality. There's much more to it than that, especially on large, complex systems. Okay. For example, using banks here, is your system double charging? It's easy to check automatically with a script written by a coding engine that you are charging the correct fee for a payment. But is it double charging? Is it triple charging? Is it doing something else weird behind the scenes that you don't really know about? So those sort of side effect issues, they typically require some sort of investigation. Okay, so to help us think through the sort of problems that you have in large organisations and banks, you need to think in terms of rules, because banks run on rules. Banks run on thousands of rules. Payment systems run on rules, and the world runs on money and therefore payments. Okay, so have a think about this one. What's the opposite of a vampire? You don't have to shout it out, but have a think. What would make, for you, what's the opposite of a vampire?
A priest.
It's not a bad one. Okay, so let's think about the properties and rules of a vampire. So if you look at the canon of fiction, they're aristocrats, okay? They need to stay near their coffin because at night, you know, they have to go back to their coffin. They've got supreme self-control, right? They really know what they're about. They're not sort of lumbering around or anything. They've got control. And they can control others as well, okay? They can bend people to their will. And they have a thing about garlic for some reason, so they're not happy with that. Okay? Now, if you ask ChatGPT, it says the opposite of a vampire is a blood donor, okay? Which I think is okay, right? If I had to come out with one, it's okay, but it's not brilliant, right? It's not maybe doing that extra thinking that you would want. Okay? The opposite, I would say, is a werewolf. Okay? Now, it takes a bit of thinking about. But if you think about it, right, so it's not an aristocrat, it's a vagabond, itinerant. It's roaming the country, roaming the woods. Okay? It can't control its own emotions. It's like just constantly shouting, arguing, like wants to bite people. It's just complete opposite. Vampire, okay? Just wants to bite people. It doesn't care about whether it's got a bit of garlic in it, it'll just bite it, beat it, it's happy. Okay? So when we look at rules systems use, finding the opposite of those rules and applying them and using them to investigate what's going on is actually pretty helpful. It really gets you to think about how the system works. And that's when I encourage people to do testing and quality assurance for their systems. You think like that. You think in terms of what are you dealing with, break down the rules, and then examine those one by one, do the inverse, and like, is it doing this? Is it not doing that? Okay? And this is where AI agents can come in fairly useful. Okay? Why do we care again? Banks run on rules. So who's heard of SWIFT, the payment system? They keep trying to ban countries on it. SWIFT CPPR Plus is kind of the global payment system if you want to send money to someone on the other side of the world. Even if you're using like a cool trendy app, you're probably using SWIFT behind the scenes somewhere within that. Okay? Just the usage guide, not the rules, is over 1,000 pages long in a PDF stack, and a bank will typically have several of these payment schemes, okay, that they have to deal with, not just SWIFT. They also use XML, so they're up to the age of 2005 in terms of technology there. They also use XML, which is from the same era, and COBOL, as well, which is from the 60s, I think, or 50s. And they have more rules, not just payment rules, they have things like contractual rules, where they're dealing with big corporate partners, so they'll set up things differently for that. And they have things like BAM rules, so each individual account can have its own set of particular charging rules or other rules that they deal with customers, okay, and there can be hundreds of these. And typically, if you're testing a change, you might be dealing with 500 BAM rules alone, as well as, say, 300 for each scheme, as well as contractual stuff and working with the XSPs, okay? But luckily, coding agents can really help you with this. So one thing you can do is take those rules and create a validator, and that'll be the first step you do, okay? So you don't say, oh, I just want you to build me a system to generate test payments or whatever. If you make the first step you do is create a validator, you can then use that validator and the coding agent to say, give me one that fails this rule, give me one that fails this rule, give me one that fails this set of rules. Okay, and that's much more useful for testing a huge banking system with easily 100 separate systems touching your payment as it goes through. And each of those systems itself has probably got a dozen or more kind of systems within it. Okay, so it gets very complicated. Okay, so if we take a good example, it's simplified, banks still use it, but this is the sort of thing we get. The old NIST password complexity rules, okay, so I think we've got 6 or 7 rules there. The sort of thing where you have to get a word that's got uppercase, lowercase, symbols, cases, whatever, okay? It's a real pain there, okay? But what you can do is, if you take each of those rules and give it to a coding agent, like Claude Code or Copilot agent mode, it can give you a failing example for each of those rules. So that would help you test it quite easily. It can do that pretty much automatically, okay? And for those of you who are paying attention there, the last rule can only fail if 2 rules fail, because they're too short to have the different combinations, okay? So with a little bit of prompt engineering, you can make it provide comprehensive test data just from the rules that you already have, because you're a big organization, you write stuff down anyway. There's already a slide deck, a rule set, a spreadsheet, let's put all that in, okay? And you can use a similar method, okay? You can say, I don't know the rules, because you might be dealing with a legacy system that isn't well documented anymore, or all the people that have moved on or passed away. You can say, find me the rules. And it'll do a reasonable job of that. It won't guess all the edge cases, but typically it's actually pretty good at varying. Once you give it a hint, here's one thing that fails a rule, you'll go off, vary inputs, and discover more rules, which you can then use to investigate the system further. And it's pretty good, especially Claude Code, is very good at finding errors in the rules. So depending on what format your rules are in, so the Swift ones I was talking about, they're actually in sort of pseudocode and prose English, so just plain English. It can find out if those rules, or a system that's coded those rules, doesn't actually work that well. If it's not really defined those rules well, it'll try and break the message, it'll vary, create the message again, and it'll actually try out, test out the validation, say, is the validation still working? Oh, it is. Okay, so there's a problem with this rule. So that's pretty useful. Okay, so if we go a bit further into that payments example, like I said, there's hundreds of rules. Some of those rules, the usage rules, are the ones that aren't XSD, they're the ones in plain English. Okay, they are quite useful, and they often allow companies to increase their straight-through processing. So when you send a payment around the world, the thing that stops your payment happening like that is because it's something wrong with your payment. One of the fields isn't quite right, okay? And that's typically in these usage rules. The other XSD rules, that's code level, that can be quite easily caught at the time of submission. But usage rules are much more subtle. So basically, if you have those rules, as we do here, we can then do clever stuff with them. Okay? Why this is useful? Banks currently still use COBOL. They still use things from the 80s, the 90s, before all of that and after all of that. And all these systems are connected together. Like I say, if you send a SWIFT payment through a major retail bank, like the Big Four in the UK, it's probably touching 100 systems before it comes out the other end. And then it goes through other banks to the next system, you probably also have 100 payments systems with payments chain. Okay? It can take a long time to do all this testing and development. What you can do with coding agents, typically the quality assurance testing side is less constrained because no bank's going to let you YOLO a new payment engine into them because it's too critical. But you can go off and build a completely new way of testing something as long as you actually find information, bugs that they care about. Okay? So we can use coding tools to out-jump the rest of the process. So if we go back to those rules, we can reverse the process. Okay? Instead of saying the typical way a bank works is, oh, we're going to build a team, set up a project plan, get an environment, get a part of the building to work in. We can actually say, let's just start with the rules, especially on the QA side. Start with the rules, create that validator, build an application on top of that allows us to test things, and then onwards from there we can do a lot. So this is the example of what I did. So if you look at the top, that's a spreadsheet with these rules. There's typically 30 to 40 for each individual message. Okay? And then create this validator there. It's command line one. That works really well. I've actually found command line works better than MCP. It's much quicker when you're using it with a coding agent. And it's also easier than MCP to debug because you can go to the command line and actually see it like, oh, yeah, the validator's actually got a bug in it itself. Okay, MCP, obviously streaming HTTP is much messier, it's hard to see what's going on. You're looking at logs and stuff like that. Okay, from that, you can then use the coding agent to say, okay, here's an example message, make this completely different version of the message on your own. And it'll do that because it can check what it's doing against the validator and just go around and around until it actually gets a valid message. Okay, and these messages can range wildly. Okay, so you can have many hundreds of different fields, all sorts of situations. So one of the classically weird ones is instead of sending money from one person to another person, you can include a government mandated garnish. So if that person that's receiving the payment or sending a payment has to donate a certain amount of money to a different organisation, that can be specified in the message itself. Right? If they have some sort of tax debt or something that is mandated for that person and the bank has to enforce that, that would be one of these edge case components of a rule. Okay? You can say, go create one of these, and the validator will be fine. It'll just say, oh, you haven't got that yet, you haven't got that yet. Oh, there's a bug in that, there's missing text, and it'll go over it. So from that, you can then say, okay, now, maybe I'm working in a restricted banking environment, now a higher environment, I can't use an AI tool, but I can use an AI tool to use those rules and the messages I've created to create a non-AI application that can deploy anywhere and runs traditional test automation there. Here's just a spreadsheet I did where you then pass this into an app and it would take those fields that are specified there, create the messages, send it in on it goes. Okay, and then I create this nice funky web app here that also is an MCP server and it does validation for you. But this is the easy stuff. The hard part is the rules, right? The first step is get those rules that are written in spreadsheets, convert those into Python or whatever language. Then you can easily, the coding agent build a nice web app on top. That's the easy part. Okay? But, who guards the guards, right? How do you know that what you're building is actually good for testing stuff? Okay, so we can go back to the root source of all this information. Where the rules. So you make sure you're constantly checking the rules. You can do spot checks. Does this particular message or rule report actually make sense? Swift itself has this really clunky, horrible manual validator, so you can put your messages in there. It's a bit buggy, so it's not the sort of thing you really want to automate against. You can cross-reference rule sets. You can say, 2025, compare those rules to 2026, because these rules change every year. Are there any anomalies between them? And things like Claude Code will quite happily find differences out and say, actually, you've got way more rules here than you have in this year. This is a gap, this is where you're going wrong. It prompts the LLM to look that bit harder in specific areas. Okay? And you can just say, can you review these? Claude Code's actually good if you set up a new session and say, just go investigate this. I think there's some issue to do with a particular type of thing. We'll investigate it deeper, and that's useful as well. Okay, so one final bit. Reconciliation is a huge part of thanks as well. So you can use the same sort of approach there. In reconciliation, right, so you've got, the bank has hundreds of different ways of receiving messages about payments it's made or received and other information. It needs to connect those all together and say, oh, we got this thing from the trading office, we got this thing from the other bank, we got this thing from our own internal auditing department, we got this thing from over here. All these messages are generated by systems that span the last 60 years. Okay, they're all using different formats, XML, pipe delimited, tab delimited, binary formats, whatever. The reconciliation system ties all those together with rules and produces a standard output that then goes down, they can actually invoice someone, and actually make money, for example. Okay? You can use a similar approach here with reasoning models or coding agents and say, okay, I've got this output, this is what we're trying to get, because if this figure in this column is above 10 million, then we need to invoice now because we're at risk of, not getting paid for that or whatever. Create the source data for those 12 different types of inputs that will generate that output. And it can iterate again over and over until it generates those files. Which, having had to do that manually, and talked to other teams that do that manually, it's a real pain in the ass to do that. It takes forever, and it's not very reliable. Okay, so, in summary, the steps you need to go through are, what is my test oracle? Okay, how do I know what I'm building is correct? So I said, look at those rules, okay, base everything on those rules. Don't try and throw all those rules into a coding agent and say, go build me some stuff. You say, rules, convert that into code, and then you can build on top of that quite reliably, because coding agents can then work with that. It's a set of functions, go build me a nice web app that sits on top. Okay, so the oracle is like the old oracle from ancient Greece. It's the source of truth, right? The source of what's going to happen. That's where you need to focus first. It's a slightly other way around to a lot of ways that development teams have worked in the past. Then build tools to help you investigate those rules and what you want to do with those rules. So I've got these rules, I want to check that my new bank system works okay. You can then investigate, like I said, using those tools, any application. And the more versatile those tools are, like command line tool, MCP server, you can tie them in any way you want. And the good thing about all of this is you can bypass the huge bureaucracy that exists in organizations and say, yes, there's a 6-month, 2-year program to build a new payment gateway or whatever. I'm going to just take those rules, build a system that allows me to test what's coming. And I can build up mocks of the systems in between. In fact, better than mocks, I can actually build slow, small, miniature versions of what's actually going to come, and then test anything along that chain. Because usually the different parts don't arrive at the same time, and the mocks they do have are often not very good, right? So if you can build a simple system that does a reasonable job of doing their behavior, then you're on grid basically. That's it. Sure, if anyone's got any questions on the exciting world of banking and advertising levels, now's your chance. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn or read my exam log. Someone stretching or asking a question?
No, curious about how complex you would take this. So you could have some, I don't know about sort of banking and so on, but if you were, let's say, building a rule engine for modeling a business, you might have some very, very complex rules in terms of interaction between entities and then sort of utilization constraints and so on. So how would you handle all like statistical distributions as well? Seasonality, people can be only so old, and those sort of statistical constraints. So how advanced do you get with this?
Maybe not quite that advanced, but definitely some of the rules are fairly complex in the payment schemes, and they cross-reference as well between, basically a particular payment message, for example, is made up of multiple messages, and you have to correlate between those. I think you probably could do it, but that initial analysis stage is where you're going to focus your work, and a certain amount of human error is right. And as I've found, as the models improve, you can go back and say, examine these rules, convert them, and newer models do better. Okay? Some banking models are sometimes written in pseudocode, sometimes in prose English, and they've gradually got better and understand the pros and create language code as well. So you probably take, if you had an example set, give it a go. It's reasonable. As long as it can be coded, right? I guess if you're talking about some things, maybe they don't reflect well in code. But these messages, because of anti-money laundering sort of rules, they encode a lot of information about people, and companies and locations, things like that. So they're quite comprehensive. It's modelling the real world of business.
So how do messaging systems like Stripe, payment systems like Stripe, this is what API?
I don't know. I deal with more core payment systems, so the bit that actually transfers the message that means the money gets moved. Banks don't actually move money, which is another weird thing. They send messages about exchanging money between accounts they have within each other. I don't know how Stripe interfaces with that, to be honest. I assume, they have a partner bank that they work with, a real bank, and they just kind of refer on to them to use things like Swift and other systems. Oh no.
I'll ask another question because says, you've also got me thinking a lot about, so we've been taking a big focus towards moving towards 100% test coverage across all of our client projects when working with LLMs. And we're experimenting with what that does in terms of over project delivery and regression minimization, that sort of thing. What you're inspiring here seems to be not just test coverage, which would be cool, you tested all the happy parts, but almost like 100% expert coverage. And that seems like a really interesting, I don't know, I'm going to think about that for a while. But what's your thoughts on
because
that?
the kind of positive test coverage, people and now LLMs can pretty much do that for you. You might worry about how detailed or abstract they were, what level, but they can do that for you. It's all the negative cases that currently they're not that great at and people are still better at. And especially if you're dealing with systems of systems or systems, that's beyond the context of the documentation you're feeding in, let alone the LLM itself. But people have that domain knowledge that can help.
Okay then.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Are you trying to extend?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Anand Thakur, and I'm a co-founder of a small company in the moment, which is AI App. Also, I'm a data science and engineering lead at AIT Nexus. And, today, I want to talk about something we all use, but rarely question. That is the core of everything what we are doing in AI, machine learning, deep learning. That is data pipelines. So we have spent years optimizing the models, but in production, the AI system don't usually fail because of models. They fail because of the pipelines break. So the question is, what if the pipeline could monitor, reason, and fix themselves? That's what I mean by agents that monitor the pipeline. Before we go further, if we think about the chronology of machine learning, deep learning, and AI, starting from statistics going all the way to AI, the core, again, like I say, it starts with data pipeline. But what about AI in data pipeline and how? So I'll cover those aspects in the future slides. So in real world system, failure don't announce themselves. Data drift silently. Schema changes upstreams. Job fails halfway. Signal arrives late. And most of the time, we detect these issues after the damage is done. So despite all our machine learning sophistications, pipelines are still reactive. Traditional pipelines are great in moving data, but they don't understand what that data means or whether something is wrong. They don't ask questions like, is this anomaly expected? Should I stop the pipeline? Is the data trustworthy? So every failure becomes a human problem. So what changes? We move from pipelines to autonomous system. Instead of just running jobs, we introduce agents that can observe, reason, and act. Now the system doesn't just execute, it starts taking the responsibility of its own behavior. Let's make this real. In typical modern stack, ingestion, processing, and output, we insert an agent layer. The observability agent continuously monitors distribution, failure, latency. The reasoning agent tries to understand why something went wrong, drift, schema issue, upstream failure. And the action agent decides what to do. Retry, reroute, switch models, or escalate. This is how pipeline moves from reactive to adaptive. If you see the example in credit systems, if feature distribution drift, agent can switch model and flag confidence. In lead scoring, if enrichment data is missing, pipeline can reroute and use fallback signals. In IoT or health system, anomalies can trigger recalibration automatically. So instead of breaking, the system adapts. we are moving towards a world where AI systems don't just produce output, they actively protect their own integrity. AI monitoring AI. So pipeline healing themselves, system continuously optimizing. This is the shift from execution to intelligence to autonomy. So in the future, the best AI system won't just predict outcomes, they will protect themselves. And before I thank you, I would like to deliver something more interesting here. Before I thank you, I would like to deliver something more interesting here. If you want to implement this actual system, this is the system architecture to implement that system in real businesses. This is the system architecture to implement that system in real businesses. And at the end, thank you very much. This is me. These are the 3 books authored by me, and the last 2 were bestsellers last year in 2020. One was 2024, another one was in 2025. And the first one is quite basic. So it's like a structured module for someone who is just entering this profession of data science. They can start from Python, going from machine learning to generative AI, and the third book is helping them prepare for any interviews, starting from data engineering to AI. So, last 2 were the ones I was mentioning as last year. Thank you very much.
Can you show the architecture diagram again?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this great presentation. So, before closing, we still have time till 9, but we will be needing to leave the property before 9 o'clock, and afterwards we will be going to a club just nearby called Bricklayers Arms, and also just a small announcement. So, by the end of May, we will have a wonderful meetup again, with collaboration with Women in Data. Afterwards, several more meetups in June, one with LangChain, one with Classical AI Skills meetup will occur. Please stay tuned with our meetup, and be sure to follow our page in Luma. So, thank you so much for joining. Please.
Can I do a quick announcement?
Of course.
A little pitch for your course. I'll just stand back. I am the organiser for the Apply Data London conference. We have a conference in June just down the road at St Paul's. We have Rachel Lee Nables, who has been a previous speaker at AI Signals. We have we've got Samuel Colvin, London guy who's now CEO of Pydantic, open source, amazing company. We've also got the CEO of Prefect, Jeremiah Lowen, and Martin They are our keynote speakers. We have 100 other speakers sourced from across the Apply Data community. those who don't apply data, it's basically run the conference that makes a lot of money, which gets immediately donated into open source to help fund and secure things like Jupyter and NumPy and SciPy and lots of the open source stack that we might be using that powers some of those imports demo today. So we've got a really cool conference. If this has been interesting to you, there's a very heavy agentic stream at this conference, so June 5th to 7th at St Paul's later this year. Thank you.
I highly recommend this. I'm sure it will be great. Thank you so much for joining today.